Hello, everyone, and welcome back to your favorite St. Louis sports podcast, The Lunatics. I'm here with my co-host, John Love, and we have some exciting things ready to kick off for you this week. So much things have happened, not just in St. Louis sports, but if you want to say Missouri sports as a whole, as we're going to touch on. It's been an exciting week. We've got St. Louis City we're going to touch on a little bit. We're going to touch on the Mizzou Tigers, as well as our Blues and Cardinals, which will really try to be the focus of this episode. And don't worry, there's plenty more city content coming for you guys shortly, as we're on a short week. We play again on Wednesday. John, what do you got for me?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that we are definitely going to be diving more into City in a few days. As many of you that follow City that listen to us, because I'm sure there are tons of you, City is the first ever expansion team to win their conference, which is amazing. We're going to talk a lot about that on Wednesday night. I think Wednesday night when we record, sometime later this week, TBD.
It might actually be Tuesday or Thursday, because unless we're recording while watching the Vancouver game.
Well, after the Vancouver game. Doesn't matter. Scheduling.
Vancouver game's at 9:30 p.m., my man.
Yeah,
It's
I
in
don't need sleep.
Vancouver. So we might just have to might be doing a live reaction to Vancouver while we're recording.
That's not the worst idea we've ever had. And we have had some bad ones, so that's
You
saying
more than
something.
me, but I mean, who says?
Yeah, yeah, it's fine.
You may have
Um,
had bad decisions. I may have more questionable decisions.
that's valid. It's valid. Mine are either like good or bad. There's like no in between. You don't have to like debate them. Um, but yeah, and then you mentioned Mizzou. Really excited about that. I know a lot of people saw that storming the field for the field goal that was 61 yards to win a few weeks ago, and they've earned their way into the polls. I was actually just checking it right before we started. They're 21st in the AP poll and 22 in the coaches poll. So, it looks like we're setting up for another year of heartbreak whenever they get into the top 10 and lose. So I'm really looking forward to that over the next few months.
It's one of those wonderful things that we get to go through as Mizzou fans, right? MIZ, FKU, much like St. Louis City there. Now,
That's
with
exactly what
that
it's
in
like.
mind, they since they've been in the SEC, they have had some good seasons early on when they joined, and they have been not great since then. They were mediocre under Pinkel. Since Pinkel retired, the program has been struggling. It's nice
Yeah,
to see him
I'd agree with
finally
that.
rebound, but Pinkel built that program.
Oh,
So
for sure.
interesting, fun piece. So I'm gonna shout out to my dad here. So my dad was at a fundraising event in Columbia,
Hmm.
and got to sit down and talk to Gary Pinkel for a little bit after
Oh,
Gary Pinkel gave the big address to the people at this meeting. And Gary Pinkel was talking about he's actually good friends with Nick Saban,
mm.
and when he was looking to take his next big coaching gig, Nick Saban kept saying, "Don't go to Mizzou. You don't want that job. You do not want to go to Mizzou. It is not worth it." And
Ah,
Pinkel came
he
to
did it
Mizzou
anyway.
anyway. And you know what? He transformed that program into a respectable football program over
He
the
did.
years he was there. And so without Gary Pinkel, I don't think we're at where we are today with Mizzou in any way, shape, or form. And then another guy, local guy to St. Louis, Jeremy Macklin really put Mizzou on
Love
the
Jeremy
map.
Macklin. Love Jeremy
Now
Macklin.
the Kirkwood head coach for football, if you guys didn't know. So if you guys want to catch Jeremy Macklin on the sideline of a football game, go catch yourself a Kirkwood high school football game. He's still out there coaching, doing great things after his NFL career is now over.
I
But
need to
Jeremy
go transfer
Macklin,
districts. Got to
so
put my kids in a different school district. Be right back.
you need to have a son real fast, or teach Reagan how to be a beast on the football field. But
She can kick.
um, you know, hey, Ewan's a wrecking ball, but we got time to move school districts. With all that being said, Jeremy Macklin's still there, but he was that electric player that really brought a lot of attention to Mizzou. Led the NCAA in all-purpose yards, set tons of records, and a lot of credit goes to him and how he played the game. And so to have a St. Louis kid, be able to make that big jump and then again make the jump to the NFL and have the success that he had really is huge for the Missouri Tigers as a whole in building that program. But yeah, Pinkel, good friends with Nick Saban, and Nick Saban kept telling him not to take Mizzou because he thought it would be a failure and he'd get run out of town, wouldn't love it. But Pinkel thrived here at Mizzou, and I honestly still miss him as a head coach, but I'm happy that he, did what he did for us. With that being all of that, encapsulated,
Sure.
big story. God, Pinkel had some heartbreaks for us, like the year we beat Kansas just to lose to Oklahoma for the second time in the same season.
That was brutal. That was so brutal. It wasn't just that. It was that when that second loss, we were like set up to I think we were like top 3 in the country. We were like set up to go to like number 1, right? Yeah, okay. I was gonna say I remember we were either number 1 or really close to number 1. And then that loss, and it just screwed us. And because that's also the year that we didn't get a New Year's Day bowl, even though we finished very high in the rankings, because every bowl presumed that one of the other bowls would invite us, and then we didn't get one. And I'm still salty about that. It's been 15 years and I'm still really annoyed about that. And I'm never not going to be annoyed. That was, that's the best season of Mizzou football that you and I have ever witnessed. And we missed out on that great opportunity that year for us.
Yeah. So looking ahead, so we are 21 in the poll. Did you see who we're playing this weekend?
I did
We're
not.
playing LSU this weekend.
That's fine.
Who is
beat them.
just
they're chumps.
They just took a loss and tumbled down. I think they're now number 23, where we were 23 last week and moved up to 21.
Right.
I still think Mizzou is not getting a ton of credit, and there is some areas of concern there. Biggest areas is we're very one-sided on the pass attack. We have Luther Burden. That guy is an absolute animal, and rightfully so. We target him a lot in the passing game, but we really need to hopefully branch out a little bit, show a little bit more versatility in the offensive side. On the flip side, we do have a solid defense. If our defense can hold up, we're going to have a chance to win any game. We showed that against K-State. K-State's a great team, and the reason we were in that game to the end is because our defense kept us in it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's going to be an exciting year, and a year. It's been a little bit since we've had a year like this for Mizzou. So I'm really excited to keep my eye out. When we first planned to get into this, I don't think we really expected to talk a whole lot about Mizzou. But neither one of us want to talk about the NFL, and Mizzou is at least still in Missouri. So I think it counts.
Here's my quick 10-second yes or no, John.
Okay.
So we were going to record this Blues Cardinals episode last Thursday. Yes or no, was it worth it to watch your Green Bay Packers last Thursday night rather than recording?
So funny story. I stopped watching before the first half was over, and I just went to bed. So yeah, the quote that I sent, I've got a group chat with a few other guys that we know that are big Green Bay fans, and the shout out Scott, shout out Andrew, although I think only Scott will hear this. What I said to them is, this is what happens when you have no pass blocking, no rushing, no pass rushing, no coverage, no tackling, no throwing, no catching, like literally just got beat in every facet of the game. And I was very sad. But I'm not here to talk about the NFL because I'm still kind of salty at the NFL for how we lost the Rams. So let's move on.
My Saints have dropped 2 in a row, including to your Packers in a complete meltdown. So you're right. Let's hop off of the NFL. And again, I just want to touch on City one more time. I know we're going to talk way more about them in another episode. But again, for those of you who don't know, just clinched best in the West this year. First expansion team to ever win their conference. We've got home field advantage through at least our half of the playoffs. Currently, the way it sets up, the only time we would not play at home outside of that second game of that weird best of 3. And there's been a lot of questions on that best of 3. The reason that the first round is best of 3 for MLS and soccer, and then it's single elimination thereafter, is they want every team who makes it to the playoffs to have the opportunity to host a home game and, to help support the fans for, and give back to those supporter sections and things. Moving on from there, though, it's single elimination. We would have home field advantage against every team except for Cincinnati currently.
Yep. As it currently stands, that's correct. It's not going to be based off of so if we say we did win our conference in the regular season, number 1 seed. So say it's us against any team from the East, we would not be hosting because we won our conference and they didn't. We would be hosting because we've earned more points than them so far in the regular season. So Orlando has a reasonable chance to pass us in points, I think. And so if Orlando earns more points than us, they would technically host us too. But at the moment, we're in the lead, so that's why we still host. The other thing I want to say before we move on from City and go to, I think, the Cardinals first is where I'd like to go.
Yeah.
Is if you guys are watching the game on Wednesday night, expect really heavy rotation. Tyler and I were talking about this earlier offline. Okay, Vancouver plays on turf. It's a quick turnaround, right? It's going to be our last chance to get minutes for a lot of guys. Um, so I do not want Klaus on the field. I do not want Leuven on the field. Most definitely do not want Joakim Nielsen on the field at all. If I can keep Berkey off of it, I'm going to. I don't think we can keep Blom off of it because we don't really have a good backup other than Akil Watts, who kind of has to play anyway. So it's either you let Blom play most of the game or you let Nurk play most of the game, or you kind of find a way to like split them and have Watts play 90, but that's regardless. I don't particularly want AZ on the field. I just don't want any of the big guys on it. So expect heavy rotation. That's completely fine. We know that our backups can bring it in any game, and we're going to be okay, right? We've locked down the West. We're going to have some 15 minutes of happiness, like Lute said, and then we're going to get back to work. And we'll talk more about it on Wednesday night, though.
Yeah, definitely we'll talk more. And I agree with that. If those of you who watched Nielsen, what was that?
Sorry, talking to myself about the date again. Ignore me. Keep going.
Those of you who have watched Nielsen or follow any of the fan groups, there's some great photography of Nielsen up in the air, way over the guy, and you could tell he's about to come down hard. That guy does not know how to play soft. And the other thing is turf is so unforgiving on joints and things. But I think honestly, turf might play better into a lot of our backups and sub type players.
Oh yeah,
because, especially offensively, because those are the guys that love to play with pace and speed. You think of Ostrak, you think of Celio.
Oh yeah,
even Stroud, the way that he runs and just has a motor that doesn't quit. And I think shout out to somebody who kind of went back and forth with us a little bit, Jamie B, in the chat earlier today, but she kind of went back and forth with me on whether Stroud or Indy is our better starter or different things. Playing on turf, guarantee Stroud's our guy. I would rather see Stroud out there, and I think we're going to see a lot of him out there. And for whatever it's worth, Jamie, I appreciated the back and forth tonight, and it was fun. So moving on from that, Cardinals. How about that season?
Thank effing God it's over. Like that's okay. I'm done. I've said the one thing I want to say.
The last two games, all I have to say is go fuck yourself, John. After we go on Friday night and we get absolutely fucking pummeled 19-2. Thanks for the tickets to that bad boy.
You could have
I got a sweet giveaway, so
that's true. So we have to do a quick bet update about the last two games. So if you guys have been with us since the beginning, there might be one of you, other than our moms, that have done that. But if
my mom hasn't listened to shit yet, so
well, my mom has. So shout out my mom,
John's mom. Thank you. We love you.
Yes, we do. So if you listen to the first episode, you and I made a bet, and you prompted this bet. You prompted this, and you asked if the Cardinals would reach 70 wins, and I said yes, they would, and they got 71. So first off, you suck. Don't make bets against me. You're gonna lose them. I will take as my victory spoils.
Who won the last bet? Did the Reds hit 20 runs on Friday?
Technically, the last bet was this one. That one you did not agree to. So because everyone was too scared that it was going to be realistic. And I want to say on that, I made that claim in like the second inning.
It was the third, first of all. But yes,
whatever. Like they were only at like 6 or 7 runs.
It was early.
No, it was in the first.
During the 7-run inning. It was either third or fourth when they started, because it was 4 to something, and then they put up some.
It was
I'm
before
going
the
to pull
fourth.
up the box score.
They still had single digit runs when I made it. Well, it could have been during that
Correct.
inning. It could have been at the beginning of that inning.
It
Yeah.
was the beginning of that big inning. So like,
Right.
it wasn't like the end of that inning, but like they put up like 1 or 2 runs. I think they hit like a 2-run bomb, and you were like, they're going to put up 20 on us.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, there's no way they don't hit 20. And then they got 19. And I was like, yeah,
That was
I'll
a
take it.
solid
I'm
over
rounding
under
up.
choice.
Yeah. Like
Yeah, you can
I'll
go
round
19
up.
and a half over under.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Remember the over and a halves because we're doing an over and a half bet later in this episode.
Also, so okay, you said you had picked your spoils, what you wanted.
Yeah, I'll take a 4-pack of Brewligans.
I got one in the fridge. Come on over.
Perfect. I almost texted you today to ask like, should I get it now? So I could have it tonight, but solid. Here I am telling myself all day, like I'm gonna cut back on the beer, and then I'm like demanding beer as payment for winning a bet. So
Hey,
um
it's all good. You know,
we did get to see something
speaking
fun in
of
that
Friday
game.
night,
Are you gonna say the
speaking
same
of
thing I'm
Friday
gonna
night,
say?
what I'm thinking of first is, and I want, I would love for our listeners to comment on the videos on their thoughts on this. If you're at an intersection that is one intersection down from something, are you at that thing? So example here is there is the light at 141 and 44 where you could turn onto 44. One light down on 141 if you're headed south from 44. It's probably about 200, maybe 300 yards down from the other light. But you're not at 44 at that point. You are still at the light before you get to 44.
Hey, what's the distance on the hurdle race you used to run in high school?
About 300 meters, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, this was like charitably at most half that distance. And I'm being very charitable. So no wonder you didn't win more races. You don't know where to stop, apparently.
I won an awful lot of races.
Yes, but you didn't win more.
I won quite a few races. Once upon a time, I was about 80 pounds lighter and a lot faster.
Life catches up to us all eventually.
So more or less, so my counter argument was you're more or less there, but you're not there. To which more or less became the statement of the rest of the night at our Cardinals game. So
the Reds more or less scored 20 runs. Technically less. That's how math works, but close enough.
I will still stand down and I will stand up to you. You are not, that light is not at 44.
I don't care.
More excitingly from Friday night, we did get to see one highlight. And if you follow on our Instagram page, I did post it there. We got a wonderful view of Adam Wainwright getting in it at bat. In fact, I actually shared a video and I have the picture. I'll have to save it where I circled where you can actually see one of the pictures that the Cardinals posted of Adam Wainwright tipping his cap, and you see John yelling, and you can see my right arm and shoulder. So it's pretty cool.
That's the best part of you. So they nailed it.
They cut the face out. They were smart, which is why we're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. The YouTube people, I'm so sorry.
Just subscribe to Spotify so you don't have to see us. That's like the point. I did hear something really, I guess, interesting, like literally 5 minutes before we hopped on the pod to record. So I guess Waino announced today that during the game against the Orioles, he actually tore his labrum and finished out that game. And then came back out 5 days later to do it again, against Milwaukee. But I think the plan was always going to be that he was not going to pitch after that game, is what it said. He mentioned whenever he announced it or whenever he said it, I guess, that if he hadn't gotten 200 against Milwaukee, that he was not going to get it because that was going to be it. I do have a person I work with who watched that game who thinks that Milwaukee was throwing, but I don't buy that. These are professional athletes that were still trying to clinch their division, right? And even though everyone loves Wayno, you don't love someone enough to like cost yourself the division. So
I I want to throw out something here, and just talking about the Brewers and things. Shout out to last season, Christian Yelich leading off the game where Yadi and Wayno broke the record and taking that first pitch.
mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that plays into anybody thinking that, hey, they're throwing the game. Taking the first pitch of a game so that they can get an official record is completely different
Mm-hmm.
than throwing an entire game in a playoff race.
Right.
I don't believe that they did. I watched that whole game start to finish. Wayno was sharper than I have seen him all season. Maybe he should have torn his labrum sooner. I don't know.
Maybe.
But the way
Well,
he was pitching against Milwaukee, I mean, it was nasty. I mean, we talked about Rowdy Tellez having a great name in baseball, but the reason we were talking about Rowdy Tellez and having a great baseball name, is because Wayno went up against him 3 different times and found ways to get him out.
Right. Right. The one thing I wanted to mention about Yelich too is that was such a classy move, and it wasn't, just so that way they could get the record. I think it was so that the ball could be saved. I think he was a little worried that it could be like he could foul it off into the stands and they, wouldn't get the ball. Um, and I thought that was rather classy. And I'm not really a Christian Yelich fan, so it really pains me to say that he did something nice. But yeah.
It's a lot better than a certain big, strong guy throwing somebody's first hit into the stands.
Nice. I was really okay. First off, I can't talk too much crap on that, but I was wondering how we were going to sneak that reference in today, and I was like hitting a wall, so I'm glad you did it. But like Bader did it for God, why can I never think of his name? That the kid from Kansas City.
I know who you're
DeWitt
talking about.
Jr., Witt Jr.,
It's
Witt Jr.
it's Bobby Witt
Bobby
Jr.
Witt Jr. Yeah. Bader did it to him. It was an accident. Like you could tell that that our resident big strong guy Pete Alonso like felt bad about it. He didn't mean to do it.
I'm just saying it wasn't the classiest of moves. Although, whatever.
We're all idiots on this podcast. We've done dumb things.
Yeah, I've never thrown out somebody's first league baseball hit in the big leagues. I've never thrown it into the stands.
I wonder why you've never done that. Coach would have put you in. You'd be in the majors right now.
Coach would have put me in. We could have won state. Oh wait, I was playing on the football team. We didn't win state.
We got second.
Next, so good for you. Furthest we made it when I was in high school was quarterfinals. All right, moving on. We had some exciting things happening with the Cardinals. So Cardinal season's over. We do not have to watch the quote unquote shit show that is the St. Louis Cardinals this year anymore.
I'm nodding for those of you listening on Spotify. I am like heavy nodding.
Heavy nodding.
Yes.
Mostly to my voice because I tend to put him to sleep. But more importantly, we did have some young guys that look exciting, and I'm intrigued to see, and I haven't looked to see, and I apologize, but I think Texas, the Arizona Fall League rosters have started to be announced. If they haven't all been announced,
they've been announced. Yeah. They actually started play today, I think.
Okay.
So all of our guys are on one team. They're on the Scottsdale Scorpions, which is such a badass name. I have to say that, like, here for that.
I'm still here for the Kansas City Wizards, but they changed their name to Sporting KC, so now I hate them. They can go fuck a duck. Continue.
That's fine. Not my problem.
Scottsdale Scorpions.
Not my cat. Not my fight. Scottsdale Scorpions. We've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys out there playing from all throughout the minors. Everything from looks like high A up to triple A. And most of them aren't our top 30 prospects. A couple of top 10 guys. Our favorite left-handed pitcher that's not Matthew Liberatore, Cooper Hjerpe, whose name I absolutely hate because it makes me think of snakes. So not a big fan of that.
Makes me think of a bad time at Vegas. So
yeah, well, I guess we have different priorities. Let's see. Tekoa Roby is down there. He is our 5th overall prospect. We got him in that trade with Thomas Agese for Monty from Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So good to see that he's going to get some more work this fall. And then, Victor Scott the second, Double A Springfield is an outfielder. He's our 4th overall prospect. So really good. I mean, he's got he's got the look. So I'm glad he's out there getting some extra work as well. Uh, and most of the other guys are guys that I've not really heard a whole lot of chatter about, but the list is out there. You guys could look it up and go for it.
Yeah, it's out there. And, Victor Scott the second, for those of you who don't know, tends to steal a lot of bases. So
We like that.
exciting guy to watch. So now we did have some other fun awards that were won. So Thomas, and again, I say Sagasy, but how did you say his last name?
Sagase. I have no idea what's right. I have no idea.
I'm not sure yet. So if
we'll get
anybody
back to you
actually
guys.
knows, please let us know. The guy looks, he looks like a future big leaguer, big time. He did win the Texas League MVP this year in the minor league. So the Texas League is the AA league that the Springfield Cardinals play in. And he did win the MVP for that league. Impressive. Again, got him in that trade for Monty, our big lefty that I miss dearly. Sadly, he's a Scott Boras client, so he's probably just going wherever the biggest money bags are going to be.
Yes.
So other things to think about with that Arizona Fall League, there was a couple of big name players that have been in the Arizona Fall League the last couple of years for the Cardinals that have then made big contributions at the big league level at up here with the main club. Newt, back in 2021, I think you made you pointed that out, that he played there and played very well.
He killed it that year.
Arizona Fall League.
Killed it. Yeah, that was like my moment. Like, because he came up and he played pretty well in September that year, right? But then he went to the Arizona Fall League and just dominated. And that was the moment for me where I was like, okay, like Newt's legit. Like he's going to be a big part of our team moving forward. And sure enough, that's what he get. When we do our roster moves that we would like to see the Cardinals do, Newt is another guy that I think is untradeable right now. But yeah, that's to come. Future content.
Your list of untradables just keeps growing.
It's basically the entire starting fielding players.
Two other players to keep an eye on. So one is Tink Hence. We did not see Tink Hence up with the big league club this year, but he is a name to keep an eye on. He absolutely lights out in the Arizona Fall League last year. Somebody who I think is going to be the future of our starting staff in 2 or 3 years. I don't think we see him as a starter at the big league level next year, but I think at the very least, he's coming out of the bullpen next year, potentially at the end of the year. Another player whose name you guys may be much more familiar with, Jordan Walker, went to the Arizona Fall League, and all he did was hit bombs and made his way up into the spring training, up into the major league camp. And then outside of Ollie Marmol not knowing what the hell to do with all of our outfielders and panicking, should have been in the big leagues all year long, but had a great year for us as a whole.
Yeah. I've got plenty of stuff to rag on Ollie tonight, so I'm not going to hate on him for this again, even though it's the fruit is hanging too low, right? We aim higher here. So.
Wow. Yeah. Well, one of us aims higher. Good for you, John.
Yes,
I took the shot, and I'll take it again.
Don't worry, I'm lining up. I'm lining up my shot. I've got something ready. So okay, of that list of guys that I gave you, and there's a few more that are in our show notes that we're not going to talk about, like I said, unless you choose to. Which of those guys do you think is most likely to tear it up this year in the Fall League, and like really put his name on the map for us?
There's 3 guys that I think we should really keep our eyes on, and that not just could do really well in the Arizona Fall League, but having a really good Arizona Fall League could lead them to making giant strides or giant steps forward for making the big league team. My first one is Cooper Hergerberpy, or however you say his name.
We'll get
You
back
said
to you
it
on
much
that.
better than I did a minute ago. But I think being a left-handed pitcher, being somebody who's potentially has a lot of good stuff to come, you always need good lefties. He's somebody who can come in and potentially fill in that hole. Tekoa Roby, you also mentioned, you kind of stole my thunder on some of these mentions, but I think he's again right-handed pitcher. I'm not sure if he's going to be a starter necessarily, but we need to rework a lot of our bullpen as well. So there's plenty of spots to be had within our pitching staff at the big league level. A really good Arizona Fall League could get him at the big league camp where he could impress. And even if he doesn't break camp with the team, I think he'll be up at least in some capacity throughout the season, assuming he stays healthy. The last one that I really want to highlight, and this is going to come probably shockingly to a lot of people, is going to be Victor Scott II. And the reason I say Victor Scott is he's an outfielder, right? And this actually is a perfect segue into my awesome question for you, John. So I had this lined up since last Wednesday, waiting for this episode.
And then I pushed it back and you hated me. Right.
I need you to name all of the current Cardinals outfielders.
Ooh. Now, okay.
At the big league level, that would be considered at the big league level.
Okay. Well, let's start with the easy ones. Okay. Carlson, O'Neill, Newt, Walker. I'm trying to decide if Burleson counts as an outfielder, but I think he does. Okay, so that's 5. Who started in the outfield the other day? Who started at left?
Palacios.
God damn it. Yes. Palacios was the next one for me. Okay. Edman and Donovan both play a lot of outfield. I don't know if Yepes counts this year as a major leaguer, but he got a ton of innings last year. So I mean, I'd give him a maybe. Who am I missing? How many am I missing?
So there's 9 there. Those are the ones. Those are the 9 that I'm thinking of. But there's one more to think about. Is also they're talking about potentially moving Contreras to the outfielder for some outfield playing time.
Yeah,
which gives you 10 outfielders.
Yeah, it's untenable. So, and like that some of those guys, Walker and Contreras are in the lineup every day, guys. Right? You have to find a way to keep them in the lineup.
So is Newt, though, the way that guy plays when he's playing consistently.
Right. So that leaves one outfield spot. Okay. And we have a bunch of guys that we just can't really do much with right now. I think Palacios has played his way into going to camp in the spring, and I think he's very, very deserving of it. And I think he could have a real chance to break with the club, except for the fact that he plays at our most crowded position.
So Palacios by trade is a second baseman.
If that keeps Gorman out of second base, I'm okay with it. Then
we rehomed to left field.
We have a habit of doing that.
Yeah, we do. So here's the issue, right? We just named 10 players, and 2 of those players can play second base or shortstop, right? With Donovan and Edman, because they can both play both positions.
Yeah, but I think
your shortstop's taken by Mason Wynn. So accounting for days off, we just have too many. You're going to have to part with players somewhere. And so that's why I think me pointing out Victor Scott II may surprise some.
Right.
And I think he's a big prospect. He plays great defense. And I really, truly think even if he does, I don't think he breaks the camp with the club or anything else, but he could be one of those guys who comes up late in the year and becomes like a defensive replacement. Yeah. The pinch runner type, somebody who can make a big difference, especially with the bigger bags, greater chances to steal. I think he could help a lot, but I think the Arizona Fall League is really going to help his stock, and whether or not that's going to be a real viable option and could potentially vault him into pushing for playing time. The flip side of that is I really want to see him with the big league club, but if he shows out at the Arizona Fall League, could be a huge trade trip for us.
Yeah.
So
I think him and Chase Davis, who MLB has as our third uh, best prospect right now, they're both outfielders. I think they're guys who don't really break into the majors with St. Louis. I think that they have a good chance of both being major league players. But I do think that they're going to be traded because we just have they're very saleable assets at a position that we are overstocked with. Um, but that's for a later date as well. Now, um, how about this? Okay, so one of the things that we've talked a lot about for next year is that we have to figure out our pitching, right? So, did you see that Derek Gould was reporting who our top pitching
yeah,
prospects are
so
or
Derek
targets?
Gould, it came out today in the press for anybody, or the media for anybody who follows the Cardinals. Looks Gould reported Aaron Nola and what's his face used to pitch for the A's, Sonny Gray.
He used to pitch for the
As
A's. I think of him at the
Sonny
Reds.
Gray is who came up with the A's and then was later
I did not know that.
traded. He would The A's is where he became a dominant pitcher, and then he started getting traded around. I think he went from the A's to the Yankees to the Reds, or A's, Reds, Yankees, something like that. But he
He
actually
went
came up with the A's.
A's, Yankees, Reds, Minnesota.
Ooh,
Yeah,
who called that?
you nailed it and they say that people get a little upset when we claim to be the best fans in baseball, but like, come on, this is a good pitcher, but like, you had no reason to follow someone in the AL, right? And like, you know this dude's whole career, like that's impressive. Like, no, I gotta give you your flowers for that. That's very impressive. That's so impressive that I actually pulled up the baseball reference because I didn't believe you when you were spouting it. I'm like, no, that's total crap. I would have heard that. And
He's another
no,
great player that the Athletics got to. We're like, hey, we got something good here. Let's fuck up our organization and hand him out to somebody else. They do a really great
absolutely.
job of that. The Rays do a really good job of handing out players, but then somehow have their cupboard so fucking stocked that it doesn't matter. The A's try to do that and realize that they're not the Rays.
Yeah.
Uh,
The
but
Dodgers
no,
too.
I but again, Sonny Gray is not a bad pitcher, and Aaron Nola. If we got those two to headline our rotation, I would not be upset by it. It's just not who my first picks would be. And
Well,
again, I wonder if is that really who we're actually going after?
okay. So I have two thoughts about that, right? So number one, Sonny Gray had himself a career year this year. He's had some pretty good years, but this is definitely his best year at the major league level. Well, I know he's got a couple early years with the Oakland
I was
A's
I was
that were
like, with
good.
the Oakland A's, he was lights out early in
Um,
his career.
but this is over the last like 5 or 6 years. This is the best year he's had. Um, so you do kind of have to wonder, like, okay, is this like where he's at now, or is this is this his ceiling, right? And then for Aaron Nola, you have the opposite issue where he had not really a great year. Um, I think his ERA was over 4, which would still probably make him like our third best pitcher. So I guess yeah, technically he's 4.46 ERA. Technically he's an improvement this year. Um, but you know, he's had a lot of he's had some better years for sure.
Hmm.
Um, so you have to kind of wonder, like, okay, is this his floor? And if that's his floor, that's a lot better than what the floor was for a lot of our staff this year.
I so my piece with Aaron Nola, he's got a lot of miles on his arm. He's the oldest of
How
the
old is he?
pitchers that we've discussed. He's
No,
31,
he's exactly
32.
30. He's younger than Sonny Gray. Sonny Gray's 33.
He's younger than Sonny Gray, but he's older than
He's older than
what's his
Snell, I
name out in
think.
San Diego. Yeah,
Blake
Blake
Snell.
Snell out in San Diego. He's like 28, maybe.
No, he's 30 as well. But
Oh
he's another
wow.
one from the
Well,
Rays, right? Like the Rays offloaded him
Blake
when San
Snell
Diego was
was
buying, and
yeah, again talking about the Oakland A's and the Tampa Bay Rays throwing things out. Blake Snell came up and absolutely, I mean, just was destroying people, but struggled the third time through the lineup, but was lights out in that World Series game. And then they
yeah,
pulled him after the fifth inning,
God, that was so dumb.
saying, "Hey, you know what? We got to play the numbers." And I'm like, if that's not an Ollie Marmol move now, looking, hindsight's 2020.
Right.
But
Well, like,
I
okay,
still
no,
think
here's the
Snell
thing
has
though.
less
It's the
miles
World
on the
Series.
arm is my piece.
It's the effing World Series. Okay.
I
Like
like how
it,
you abbreviated effing this time.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm trying to help our social media person out with not having to bleep every other word out of my mouth. Um, no, that was in the effing World Series though. Like, if you're going, what are you saving him for at that point? Like next season? No, you've got a chance to win a championship now. There's not an athlete alive that's going to say in a championship series or championship game, you know what, coach, I want you to take me out right now because I might get hurt and not be able to play next year. That is not a thing.
The numbers he was playing was that Snell struggled the third time through the lineup against teams all year long because his issue was he was really young at the time
Fair.
and he didn't understand changing arm angles, changing the way that he shows pitches. So his third time through the lineup throughout the year, if he made it through to the third time through the lineup, he got absolutely rocked. His ERA went from like 1.6 to like 5.8.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
the
That's
manager's
true.
playing the numbers there, and I understand what he's looking at, but give the guy a chance because he was absolutely dealing that night. And there's times where you just have to understand, hey, you know what? Tonight he's got it and they're not seeing it. Let's keep it rolling. And I again, we could debate this all night long, but
Mhm.
I still think Blake Snell should be our top target over Nola because he has better swing and miss stuff, which
Oh,
is going to
absolutely.
age better. So I think about pitchers like Adam Wainwright. Adam Wainwright was a great swing and miss pitcher early in his career,
He adapted. He
and
adapted
he
when he lost it,
adapted to
when he lost
be
speed.
to when he lost his velocity, he was able to adapt and change. And I think Nola's been able to do that. So I think he's going to stick around the league, but he's not going to be that top tier starter. Snell still has the swing and miss
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and that's why I really want them to go after the guy who still has it. Or there's two guys in Japan right now that teams are getting ready to post up. Take one of those guys. They're both younger. They both have great stuff and see if we could snag one of those guys because you're going to be able to sign them. It's going to cost some money, but to a long contract.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Blake Snell is going to cost some money, right? Like that's the point. And Blake Snell's who you and I were just alluding to, where we're like, is this really who we're targeting? Like, are we targeting someone else? Like, you and I think, are on the same page that we want them to go for Blake Snell, and if they're going to try playing mind games with everyone else, because like if other teams know that we're in on Blake Snell, they're going to come in higher because they know that they probably can win with a higher bid against us. Whereas if they don't think we're in on Blake Snell and we come in with like our normal bid, maybe it's just a little bit higher than what the other teams are offering because they don't think they have to outbid us, and then we get them.
Here's
That's what I'm
my
hoping. But
here's my opinion on this is we need to figure out who we want as our number one starter. We need to go out, figure out what we think his market value is, add 20 million to whatever the total contract is. So if it's 5 years, 4 million a year, whatever, tack it on there, make sure that we throw out at a very lucrative, attractive offer and get the guy we want. Because in the grand scheme of things, those few $1,000,000 a year to the Cardinals organization are not going to matter.
yeah, no, I 100% agree, and I'm actually trying to look up what because Monty is out there too this year. I would love if Monty comes back, but I
Here's
don't think we will.
another guy, and I've said him on the podcast before. He's a former Cardinal, somebody that I would love to see. But we really realistically still have 3 spots we need to fill, no matter what the organization
Right.
says. I hope that we fill 3, but somebody that we don't talk about a lot and people aren't talking about a lot, and I think would cost a lot less than what some of these other pitchers are
Mm-hmm.
going to cost is Michael Waka.
Yeah.
Look at his numbers from this year, though. They are absolutely. I mean, he looks like the pitcher he was back when he broke camp with us, and
Yeah, no, that's a solid year. 14 wins, 3.22 ERA,
mhm.
130 innings pitched. Like, no, that's a 1.16 whip. Yeah, no, that's
I
a
mean,
that's a
he
banner
would
year for
he could
him.
slot in as a 3 or 4 starter when he's on his game, just fine. And again,
Right.
we're looking for a number 3 starter there, right? We have a 4 and 5 starter, right? We have those spots
Well,
covered.
yeah, that should be the
We need
point,
the
right? Is
top
that
3.
Mats and Michaelis, who are honestly maybe a little bit better than a 4 and 5 starter. But the point is that they should be the 4 and 5 starter if you want to be really competitive, right? This is
Mm-hmm.
not just about being good in the regular season. This is about being good in the postseason, right? So you have to go out and get good players. Um, yeah, Waka had a really good year, and wow, he's still only 31. God, I forgot how young he was when he broke out.
So we drafted him literally the summer before we called him up to
Right.
play in
Yeah.
that NLC. And
He was so good those first couple of years. He was really, really good.
I mean, everyone compared him to Wayno, and for good reason.
Yeah.
And then he started having those shoulder issues, those
Mhm.
scapular issues, and he was just never the same.
Right. But it looks like he's
Um,
figuring it out. I mean, that's 2 years in a row with with like a low 3 ERA. Like that's solid. That's,
yeah,
pretty good.
I think he's finally healthy, and it's showing. Uh, Here's a thought for you.
Okay.
After the Cardinals ended the season, though,
Hmm.
Ollie decided to have a hot take in a conference
Yeah.
with some media outlets, and I have some very mixed feelings about what he said, and it really goes back to how he I felt like mishandled the team early in the season.
Okay.
Did you hear what he said?
I did hear what he said. And I'm there's a good chance I'm about to get a little heated here. Okay.
More
So
heated
first
than
off,
when I was picking at you over the Stroud stuff after the game a couple weeks ago, and you muted our conversation.
um I don't know. We were texting, so I was able to just mute that. I'm not muting this one, so I don't know. But like, here's the thing. All right. So what Ali said was basically he wants a team full of guys that don't care about themselves and only care about winning a championship. So his goal is to weed those players out. Okay. And here's why this pisses me off so much. So when you think about it, like, okay, who is he probably talking about? Well, it's probably not the fielders and the hitters, right? Because almost every one of our hitters has already obtained a reputation for being a come in, work your ass off, grind it out type of guy.
Tyler O'Neill.
And
Sorry, there's something in my throat.
okay, we're gonna come back to that, but also O'Neill's been hurt. Um, and these guys that come in and work hard every single day and that really only care about winning, like that is like the thing that about a lot of our guys. Okay. So then you have to think about, okay, is he talking about the pitching staff? Right. Well, the pitching staff underperformed pretty poorly this year. The hitting was solid, but situationally could have been better, and that is on the manager, I think. But what the hell do I know? All I do is talk about this 24/7.
You know, I mean, I never once hinted that Mason Wood should try to like bunt to get some, get his confidence up, get
There
on
you
base,
go.
start running.
You could
But
manage at the
why
major
would you
league
do
level,
that?
right?
Oh God, I could.
But
I could do better than Ollie. Shit, give me some numbers. I could follow the numbers as good as he could, and then on sporadically be like, this guy's feeling it. We'll roll with it.
yeah, I could
At
believe
least
that.
as good as Ollie. You
At
could too.
least that's your
Honestly,
floor.
they could
Your
just
floor is
take.
Ollie level.
They should take whatever they're paying Ollie, split it between us, and let you and I be co-managers.
Yes. Now there's an idea. But here's the thing. So I think he's possibly talking about the pitching staff there, right? And they underperformed, and I get it. Okay. But here's the freaking problem. Okay. They constructed this roster to use a skill set that is no longer very viable in today's game. And then they're mad that it doesn't work and they blame the players that it didn't work. No, the players are who the players are. Their skill set is no longer the best way to win at the major league level. And you designed the whole effing team around it and did not incorporate anyone with a better skill set, which is basically throwing strikeouts, limiting home runs, and avoiding walks. We have no one at the major league level who can do that right now. And then on top of that, okay, you're blaming them for this. And then you're saying that they are the people who, are only caring about themselves and, you're going to have to weed them out. No, don't ever freaking question these guys' competitiveness, right? And their desire to win. That pisses me off. And like, it's one thing if like, like Tyler O'Neill with like the running the bases or Bader last year, that one time he ran the bases, like, okay, you did it, you call him out, you sit him down for a day, right? You come back up, you move on, right? He does not have that ability. And by he, I mean Ali Marmol. He does not have that ability. And it's such crap. He's a horrible man manager. He screwed up Contreras for half the freaking season, right? On top of it all. And it's just really frustrating. So, okay, what I'm building up to here is if we're going to weed someone out, that person should be Ali. Done.
Oh, I think by him saying that, he's already creating a divide in the locker room that doesn't need to be there before the offseason even starts.
Yep.
He's picking at people. He's going after people. That's not you want to get onto Mike Schilt for a philosophical difference, but you're totally cool with your current manager creating the biggest divide he possibly can in the locker room to say,
repeatedly,
hey, this half of the room, go fuck yourselves. Hey, you guys, I like you. You guys are all right. Let's be buddies. Right. And I have so many issues with the way that he handles conflict, the way that he handles problems.
Yeah.
And he does it repeatedly. And
it's just constant missteps.
To steal the words of the wonderful Peter Griffin, it really grinds my gears.
It does.
When he does
that. It does. It really, really grinds my gears. And I mean, I do agree with the sentiment that this is St. Louis. The expectations are higher. This is not about the individual, it's about the team. I 100% agree with that. That is true. It's everything he said immediately after that.
Here's who I know. You said the pitchers as, hey, he's calling out the pitchers. I 100% think the flip reverse of that. I think he is still pissed at Contreras and still calling Contreras out. I think he is calling Tyler O'Neill out.
I can buy that one.
I think he's potentially calling out Dylan Carlson. I think he's calling out guys who potentially were either hurt, got hurt, did, right. I mean, was Tyler O'Neill apparently slept on like a steel sheet for a mattress and like fucked up his back and couldn't play for 2 months.
That's a very Tyler O'Neill thing to do, though.
I mean,
that's a very Tyler O'Neill thing to do.
The guy just needs to fucking go to yoga. Like, learn how to stretch, my man.
Gorman's got to go too, though. Like Gorman should go too.
Gorman has a lot of work to do to earn my trust because he's already showing back issues. He's already having some of these things. And you and I have talked about this already offline and during our, when we do our roster wish list and predictions, you and I have some very different hot takes and it's probably going to get very heated. So when we get into this, I hope everyone is ready because it's gotten heated every time we've even started to talk about it.
Yeah. In fact, we shouldn't talk about it again because we don't want to get it out. We need the content on air. So we can't talk about that one topic again.
What I'm getting at is we have some guys and part of this is strength and conditioning. We don't have great strength and conditioning coaches. And at the big league level, our current coaching staff, we don't have a lot of big leaguers to really help our team. One of the smartest things that I thought that they did, was they brought in Isringhausen a couple of weeks ago to potentially come in and help.
Was that Trevor Isringhausen that they called him?
I believe it was Jason Isringhausen.
Okay.
Trevor Isringhausen was my old friend from high school. So I understand if you might, before high school, even him and I started as wrestling partners when we were like 6 years old. So
got it. Shout out Trevor.
Shout out Trevor. If you ever get on here and hear me talking about you, I'm really sorry, but you were a wonderful man. And actually, believe it or not, him and I, while he went to Jeff City High School and I went to Raleigh, he ended up going to pharmacy school up at UMKC. So of all the things
from high school, also went to pharmacy school at UMKC. It's crazy.
Yeah, pharmacists are weird though.
We are
goddamn drug dealers.
We're the freaking worst.
So here's the thing. Long story short, our coaching staff has no true big league talent. We need guys like Jason Isringhausen. We need people again, and I talked about this a couple of times already, but the biggest loss to our team was losing Skip Schumacher. Do you know who made the playoffs this year that had no business being in the playoffs right now? The Miami Marlins. Do you know who their manager is? Skip Schumacher.
Tell me.
Our bench coach from last year that we should have hired as our manager when we hired Ollie. The reason that we didn't is that we have certain people in the front office of the Cardinals organization right now that are so goddamn hooked on analytics and everything that they say. All they want is somebody who says, this is what the numbers say, do this. And there's no feel to it. And you see, Skip is somebody who uses analytics. Don't get me wrong. He does use them and he believes in them, but he also has we need to make some changes, or I can tell that this guy, for example, we talked about Blake Snell. This is a good tie back in earlier to the episode. Blake Snell in the World Series was feeling it. That guy was dealing that night.
Mm-hmm.
Skip's not going to pull him after 5 innings. He's going to give him another inning and just see what he's got and see where they're at.
Yeah. So I had this thought earlier today about like my ideal manager, right? And I basically want someone who can do the player management side of Mike Schilt with a little bit, maybe not quite as much, but I think he does okay with this overall with Ollie's incorporation of analytics. I don't think he leans as hard into it as some of the other managers. And I get that like there's a trend to it, and that's why like they're doing it. It's a copycat league, and like the Dodgers and the Rays are very heavy on analytics. And if you're going to emulate two, organizations and the Astros that have had a lot of success over the last 10 years, those are who you're going to be copying. But yeah, it's just frustrating. And to just see these missteps, because like chemistry matters, right? The mindset of the team matters. Like those are things that managers can very easily impact and make or break a team. And I think in the case of Ollie, it's been more break than make.
Yeah, and I think this is something to keep in mind. We had a guy in the Cardinals organization, not a player, but within the organization, the scouting and development department, named Jeff Luhnow. If you didn't know, he's the guy who was hired away from us, went to the Astros, and turned that organization around. Since he has left, our organization has not been the same. And for good reason.
Our last few draft classes have been solid. It took us some time to rebuild, but the last 3 or 4 years, I've been very happy with our scouting.
I'm not arguing that we've gotten better, but Luhnow was also a big part of how we utilized analytics as a team.
Right.
And he's a big part of how the Astros utilize analytics of a team. And for those of you listeners who aren't aware, the Cardinals did try to hack into the Astros database.
Well, no.
Apparently or allegedly.
No.
After he left.
Let me correct this.
In our defense,
no. Stop saying we had nothing to do with it. No.
Jeff Luhnow had an amazing guacamole recipe, and some of the front office guys were like, I can't let that go.
Okay. Let me correct that entire assertion. Okay. We as an organization, I can't even believe you would make that assertion. We as an organization did not try to hack the Astros. A single person knew what Jeff Luhnow's password was when he was here at the Cardinals. Jeff, like most of us, ignores the IT emails that he gets every day at work that says, you should change your password every now and then, and you should incorporate different symbols and different words and phrases, and don't click on phishing emails. So the guy, and I can't even remember his name, and it's not really worth looking up, logged on to the freaking Astros network using Jeff Luhnow's email and the password that Jeff had when he worked here at the Cardinals, and he got in. And by the way, that is a major crime, and he has been arrested and he's in jail deservedly.
He just wanted the guacamole recipe.
He should have just stuck with the Matt Carpenter salsa and been happy.
I have a old meme on my phone from when this was breaking out huge, and
still can't believe you would make that assertion. That's trash.
I'm going to. Technically, it was somebody within the organization, which makes
not the organization, though.
It was not the organization as a whole, but we got punished as an organization. So by him, he is representing the organization. Either way,
I'm on the Cardinals PR team. It's a lone rogue agent. We fired him. We had him arrested.
Then why did you have to give up so many draft picks? Anyway, here's my thing, and I'm going to post this.
Saying that we did it is wrong.
I'm going to post this. I'm going to send this and make sure it's posted when we post this episode. but I have a picture of the Astros throwback jerseys, and it says Cardinals on it from when this all was going down. And it says the Cardinals New Jersey that they totally came up with all by themselves.
That's good. Can I give you another funny one that I saw today before I'm done with the Cardinals. I'm done with the season.
We're
I'm ready
good
to move on. But before we go on to the Blues, I did see something really funny today. On Wikipedia for Sporting Kansas City. Joao Klaus was listed as the owner, and I saw that and I just died, and I was like, that's true. But I didn't want to wait till our next episode to like make that reference, and I'm so glad that you brought that up.
Oh man, it was God, yeah. No, it's again
such a good game.
Humor's everything in life, unless you're John, in which case, just throw shit at him and hope that see what sticks.
Yeah, I'm curvy. Things bounce off of me.
I think I've got you beat on curves, at least if I turn sideways.
Probably.
Let's talk about an exciting team that's starting the season and has not lost all hope and everything that goes with it.
Yeah. Not lost all hope yet.
You shut your dirty whore mouth, John.
I am not high on the Blues prospects this year. I think they will be better. We'll get to this at the end.
Okay. So we're going to get into this. I have a lot to say. John's going to sprinkle some flavor in on the top and probably try to push my buttons and piss me off, and we'll see how we go.
I'm very good at it, to be fair. Like, I was told to stick to my strengths, so not my fault.
Anyway, so the Blues have been all right. They've had some mixed results so far in the preseason, but it's preseason, so you're playing different guys. We've more or less shrunk our team down to the last couple players we're trying to feel out before we break camp. It's the game going on tonight. I was watching part of it. I was not encouraged by some of the things that I saw. But it doesn't mean that all hope is lost. Again, it's preseason and things. Something that our season starts in about a week and a half. It's on the 12th. We open up against Dallas. Dallas Stars are going to be a hell of a team this year. In the Central, they're one of a couple teams that are really going to be the teams to beat in the Central. But I see us finishing potentially, if we play the way that we should, third or fourth in the division. And so I think it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. With that being said, I kind of want to touch on Torrey Krug before we get into that. So he's been hurt, was supposed to be reevaluated, and I haven't looked to see if he is. He should be more or less ready from the first of the season.
He played today.
To go. Did he play today?
He played today, actually. Yeah, that's I was going to see if you had caught that. Yeah, he was out there on the ice.
In my defense, I was dealing with kiddos who were real cranky from a Monday at kindergarten and preschool, so I was not paying that close of attention. But the couple things I saw, I was not encouraged by.
Yeah, he actually gotten an assist on the second Verona goal.
Okay,
which is awesome. But we'll talk more about that too.
So anyway, big thing for Torrey Krug is we actually tried to trade Torrey Krug in the offseason, and he invoked his no trade clause on us. And I think the things that he said afterwards were incredibly important to see where he's at mentally heading into this. Anytime an organization tries to trade you, that can go couple of different ways, right? That can create a lot of animosity. It can create a lot of issues. But afterwards, the way that he went about it, I mean, he impressed me. I mean, true professional, if you want my opinion, but he expressed how much he wants to be here, how he wants to wear the blue note. He talked about that, I'm locked in and I'm focused. I want to win a Stanley Cup. And if you remember, he made a Stanley Cup final and lost against a team, I think back in, was it 2019?
I think so.
And certain Blues team that he lost to when he was a part of the Boston Bruins. And so, Bruins can go jump off wherever they are doing and have their own party. But more importantly, he lost that. He knows what it's like to be right on the cusp and lose. He knows what it's like to have postseason success, and he can be a huge asset to the team if he's truly locked in and focused. And I think this jumps and kind of leads into one of my other big talking points right now, which is the locker room. Berube lost the locker room last year. Absolutely lost it. There was a lot of talks. There was two guys who got contracts. Kyrou got a contract. Robert Thomas got a contract. There were two guys who were going to be free agents at the end of the season who were big players, big contributors to our team, helped us win a Stanley Cup. And, Ryan O'Reilly was not somebody who was going to stir shit up necessarily in the locker room, but he was not necessarily the let's all come together force, right? And the reports that I've heard and the things that I've read is you could tell he was a lot harder potentially. And there was a little bit of a divide between Tarasenko, Ryan O'Reilly, some of these older guys, and these new guys, Kyrou and Thomas. And you guys are getting these massive paydays, but we're the ones who really held the bulk of the work and won the Stanley Cup. And then in 2020, a lot of people forget about that, but before the bubble, the Blues were the odds-on favorite to go back and repeat. I mean, we were absolutely tearing people up. We had that layoff. We came back into the bubble, and we were not the same team, and rightfully so, right? I mean, that's a hard break to go through, and I still think we have a chance.
Lose your momentum, your chemistry, like you basically have to start the whole season over, and it takes a lot of time to build that type of stuff up, like the form and everything. That I don't even know what I was going to say now. I just got distracted by that. It's just sad kind of what happened last year. A lot of the guys that we loved from that run we made are gone. And I get it, right? I get their concerns, but
and again, and I'm not one to question Armstrong. I will question Mo 8 ways to Sunday. Army seems to pull deals and solutions out of his ass like nobody I've ever seen. Mo has made some trades where he's convinced people to pay us millions of dollars just so that we take their star player, which I mean is fine by me, a la Nolan Arenado.
That's the greatest trade of all time. Period.
I mean, if we're being honest, the Goldschmidt trade ended up being quite the steal itself as well.
Yeah, but Arizona didn't pay us $50 million to take their star player.
No, they didn't pay us $50 million. But the Arizona no longer has anybody from the Goldschmidt trade on their roster.
That. Yeah, when they DFA'd
I wonder
Carson.
Who won that trade. So again, for all that I hate on Mo, I mean, he has had some good moments in there. The other big thing is we brought in some players to really try to help build the locker room the personality, right? We brought in Kevin Hayes, who, if you talk to anybody, I mean, he's a decent player. I was not encouraged by his turnovers on the ice tonight, but he's a big locker room guy. He's a big bring people together guy. He's going to help hopefully gel that locker room. And every interview I've heard, every person I've talked to, and, I listen to a lot of Jamie Rivers. I love Jamie Rivers. That guy is hilarious to listen to, but also is incredibly knowledgeable about hockey. But talking about how well this team has come together, how well that we're seeing the locker room come together and the leaders take shape. You and I can both agree that Braden Shen being named the captain was the right move. We've talked about it.
Thumbs up move. Yeah. 5 out of 5.
Yeah. 12.5 out of 5.
Yeah.
But they gave Robert Thomas the A. And I think that's something that I think we need to talk about, right? So when they gave Robert Thomas this big contract, they talked about him being somebody who could be a future captain of the Blues. This is his chance to show it. This is his chance. Okay, buddy, those older guys that, you didn't see eye to eye with, whatever, they're gone. This is your team now. And even more so than Jordan Kyrou, I like Jordan Kyrou. I think he's a great player. Robert Thomas is the difference maker here. They got identical contracts. I think Kyrou's worth in my mind, 10 to 20% less than Thomas.
I don't know if I'd
I'm
say that.
saying
Kyrie,
at current state, because Thomas has a better two-way game than Kyrie
right.
does.
Well, and that's
Kyrie's going
the
to
issue
score
with Kyrie
goals.
and Thomas, right? Is can they play both directions? Can they add to the defense, right? That, and if we're going to take a step forward, we need that from them. Like they're gonna be on the first line, right? They're gonna be getting the majority of the playing time or the most playing time. Like we need them to be able to do that.
They have to be able to defend at a other team's first lines.
Right.
And I have more faith in Thomas being able to do it efficiently and effectively than I do Kyrou. But
Okay.
they both have to show they have a 200-foot game.
Right.
And if I had to guess, I mean, who do you think is going to be paired on that line with them?
Uh Vucevic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be Pavel Buchnevich, and that guy is a absolute workhorse in and of himself. It gives them that big body they need on that line as well. That line can be electric, but we have to remember that they're going to be going against other teams' top lines.
Right.
And they have to be willing to play that 200-foot game. And I was listening to Jamie Rivers talk about playing with some of the players he's played with over the years when he was in the league. And one of the really common themes he saw was he's like, man, I played with some great players who would put up, 120 points, 130 points in a season, and we couldn't do anything. And then all of a sudden they start putting up 70 points, 80 points in a season. And we're winning Stanley Cups because rather than selling out to score goals and do the things, they're going both ways. They're playing a full game. They're putting their body in the way to make sure that they win the games that matter. And they all of a sudden start winning cups. And the big question is you guys got your payday last year.
Mm-hmm.
You've been paid. In fact, before the season started last year. Now it's time for you guys to take the step forward, to put in the effort to make a full game and show that you guys can lead this team to the playoffs. I'm still, like I said, I'm more nervous about Kyrou than I am Robert Thomas, but I think it's going to be an very interesting storyline as the year progresses to see how they develop defensively especially against those top lines.
Yeah. And I mean that's the point, right? The whole point is that we've got to be better in pretty much every facet of the game this year. And I don't know, I haven't decided yet if I think last year was our floor or if I think that it that we're going to be a lot better. I don't feel like the team is vastly different from last year's team, and compared to the team we started with last year, I feel like the beginning of last season's team was better than the beginning of this season's team. On paper, and that's not everything, but looking at the guys we lost, I'm not convinced that this is overall a better team this year.
You and I have both played sports at least semi-competitively in high school, right? Etc.
I mean, yeah, I guess as competitive as high school sports can get.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you and I both competed at state championship level sports, whether football,
Right.
track, whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
The locker room and that mentality in that locker room plays almost as much of a factor as the talent level on the that's on the field.
Absolutely, and that only gets more true as you go up the ranks because the talent gap decreases between teams.
So I look at last year's team from a talent perspective with a higher floor, a lower ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
I see this year's team as a potentially lower floor, higher ceiling, pending some growth from some guys, but could have a big, I don't know how to say, I see it potentially leaning more towards the ceiling end of things because we have a better locker room presence. Couple more players to talk about that have been good. The Blues have got some big bodies. Berube loves big bodies, loves to be able to get on the forecheck. send the puck into the offensive zone, get on the forecheck, win some pucks, get some offensive ice time. So it'll be intriguing to see how that bigger body style plays out, because we didn't have that last season. And I feel like that really hurt us trying to play Berube's system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Perunovic has looked good so far. He's definitely get some more playing time. I don't know that he breaks as a top 4 defenseman. I think he's potentially number 5 or 6, but I think it's just based on how Torrey Krug plays, and it's really going to be him or Krug for which one of those two is going to be the top 4. One of those will not be. And I think it'll be interesting to see how that plays up.
Right. But there's also injuries and things. I mean, it's a long physical season. Like having depth here is not the worst thing. The problem, like, I don't think there's a huge gap necessarily in our depth there. The problem is I don't think we're as good defensively as a lot of other teams is my concern.
I think, and it's something that's hard to put into words, right? But when we've gotten we have Colton Parayko, who has a nasty slap shot, but he hasn't been asked to use that. He's been asked to come up and try to shut down defensively. Mm-hmm. And he really has to make up for, and he has had to make up for the fact that other players are not playing a 200-foot game, or that they're getting onto these fast breaks. And this is something that you also have to realize is when Kyrou and Thomas just constantly want to get onto these fast breaks, they leave their defensemen out to dry.
Yeah.
Because it's an all or nothing play. They're going straight at the net. It's an all or nothing. They're either putting the puck in the net, or if not, the other team's coming right back at them, and the defensemen all of a sudden are trying to stop, change direction, and cut back to get back. Mm-hmm. And so I think that there's a two-way street there and how that's going to play off. I think
Well, I mean, if you put it in the net every time, it's fine. The problem is you can't put it in the net every time.
You want Jordan Binnington, and any good goalie in NHL should be able to make 2 or 3 saves to help keep you in the game through the game. Big saves. When you're asking your goalie to make 8, 9, 10, 12 big saves because of the way that your offense is playing and turning over the puck, you're going to end up in trouble, which is exactly what happens. It wasn't that Binnington played poorly. It's that Binnington got left out to dry last year. Mm-hmm. Now, something, that I want to kind of talk about or highlight really quickly here is Jakub Vrana came up last year. And, we talk about, hey, we need Robert Thomas and we need Jordan Kyrou to play 200-foot games. And you're going to have to give up some of that, like selling out for goal scoring. Where are some of those extra points going to come from? Jakub Vrana is the guy. The guy came up and played lights out at the end of last season. All he did was put pucks in the net. And he needed to come up and show in the preseason that it wasn't just lightning in a bottle. He wasn't just, hey, I got hot really quick and fell off at the end of the season. He's come up to the preseason and all he's done is just continued where he left off last season. I mean, he's absolutely electric.
So good. He's been so good so far in the preseason. I think you could make the case that he's been possibly one of our best players this preseason. I haven't gotten to watch the games yet, and I think there's something to be said about there's parts of sports that can't be described in stats, at least not well, right? And so they call that the eye test, right? And I haven't gotten to do that yet, but just looking at the score sheets, you see him all over the place on them so far. He's been really good. I can't wait to watch him.
And stats can be misleading, as I have pointed out to many people many times throughout the years, both in my professional career as well as my talking sports and things. But hey, you know what? This player always scores X number of goals whenever on the ice. Okay, well, are they doing that because they're playing against the other team's backups? Are they doing that because we're playing them a bunch against the worst teams in the league because we're saving our better guys for the better teams? And trying to see as we get out of the preseason and into the regular season, does Vrana keep it up? Or was it, hey, he was, potentially vulturing or picking on some other teams' players they were feeling out to see if they were NHL ready? I still think he's going to get some points. I still think he's going to score goals. I think it'll slow down. It's not going to be what we're seeing in the preseason, but he's definitely going to be a good source for us for moving forward into the season and picking up some points. And last guy that I want to talk about, and I know you're trying to bump me along here, John, but Calle Rosen was a huge fan favorite last year. He played great defense, but even better, he provided a lot of offense from the defensive side and from our defensive line last season, and something that we desperately needed at times. Where does he play? Right? He was a bright spot for us last year, but when I look at our defensemen, I feel like he's just not going to see a lot of playing time as it currently stands, but I feel like he earned it after the way he played last year, and I'm not sure how he's going to pair up or what Berube's thinking with him. And it makes me nervous because he's somebody that I would love to see get more ice time than what I think he's going to get.
Right. Right. Yeah, I don't know. I'm glad it's coach having to make those decisions and not me.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. I'm excited. I think we're going to get a really good feel after our last preseason game later this week and be able to kind of get a general. We'll finally have the roster finalized, see who's healthy, who's not heading into the season. And I think we're going to get a really good feel for who our starting lines are going to be. And we could start thinking through that. But as many people who follow hockey know, it's not just about, who's your best players, but who plays best together when you're building those lines. That chemistry is huge because these guys are spending all their time on the ice together, and they have to be able to play well together. Just because you're two amazing players doesn't mean those two amazing players can play well together. And so I think it'll be interesting to see not just who we pair up together on lines, but who we really consider our top line when the other team's top line is on the ice.
Right.
So definitely storylines to follow through here. All right, back to you. You've got some things for me, I'm sure.
Right. So let me ask you this, okay? How do you think they do this year? What do you think? Like, do you think they're a playoff team this year? And this is going to lead into the next question, which is ultimately like how many points do you think they get this year?
I'll answer both right now.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think they make the playoffs, and I think they get 93 points.
93 points. Okay, so would you say that 92.5 is like the cutoff for an over under that you would take? Or do you think would you take a lower? Okay. Coming back to that. I don't know. I mean, 93 is what you said. I guess that's maybe just like a smidge better than I think they will do. And I do say a smidge. I think 93 gets them a little bit closer to a playoff spot than I think. I think they're going to be in the hunt for it, but come up short this year. And I hate that because so many teams make the playoffs in the NHL. I don't know. They just don't seem substantially different from last year. And so I'm just not supremely confident. I hope I'm wrong. I've been wrong many times before, so nothing wrong with that. I kind of see them as like an upper 80s to low 90s, so kind of in the same range, but like 90 is kind of the number that I've personally got in my mind as what they'll get this year. So anyway, new season, new bet, right?
I knew that's where this was going.
So, well, yeah, I do, and I set you up for it, right? What's the lowest that you will take the over on, right? And 92.5, I think, is a good number. I think it's reasonable. I think both of us have a good chance of winning. If we're wrong, I hope I'm the one that's wrong. Not only just to throw you a bone and give you some beer, but also just because I want them to do well. So for official bet purposes, it's on video. It's posted on the internet where nothing is ever deleted.
Hey, and everything on the internet is real. If you didn't know,
real and it's true. You're taking the over at 92.5, and I'm going to take the under at 92.5 for Blues points totals this season. Okay.
Game on, John.
Game on. But yeah, I'm excited. Our season starts on October 12th, I think, against the Stars, which is who we play on Thursday in our final preseason game. So we might be able to, like, if you watch that preseason game, might be able to see a little bit of what you might see on the 12th. But, you're also probably only going to see a lot of, like, guys that they're trying to choose between, too. So, I don't know. Should be a good game. I mean,
it'll be more or less the team we might see.
It's like the fourth time we've said that. It's almost like it's our catchphrase now. We're more or less good at podcasting.
Yeah, more or less good at podcasting, and the Blues are more or less stacked with some big, strong guys. So last thing here, before we sign off, was a little sad. Did not see Celio play on Saturday, but because I didn't mention him, had to throw that out there. But
I was going to say it if you didn't.
I do think we get to see Celio play on Wednesday at Vancouver, because playing on the turf definitely fits his play style a little better. John's getting fat and about to break his chair, for those of you who heard that
That's
popping
correct.
noise, and which is always exciting times. So
yeah,
with all of that said, we are going to wrap things up here. Should have out another episode later this week, which we'll talk all things St. Louis City, because there is way too much to talk about to cram in with the Blues and the Cardinals. But until then, make sure you like, subscribe, and follow wherever you listen to your podcast: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and follow us on social media at Instagram, Twitter, X, as I so commonly forget that it's now called, and Instagram. So we are out there, we are looking for things, and hopefully we'll have some athlete interviews here coming up, as well as a follow-up interview with our good friend Sheldon from Pickleball, and talk about how that shooting and episodes went with his creating the new season of the Pickleball Paddle Battle, if I said that correctly.
You did. It's a real tongue twister, but for real, guys, if you're listening to this, comment on our social media, let us know what content you liked, what content you didn't like, if there's something else you want us to cover. Like that's why we do this, is to talk about it. And honestly, we're kind of dumb. We could easily run out of good ideas to talk about. So if you have good ideas, share them for us, please.
On the dumb comment, he's speaking for himself, but one of us can only come up with so many good ideas.
That's true. And
as
and
I
they're
say,
mostly mine.
After John puts together most of our outlines. So with that said, I hope you guys have a wonderful night. Have a good one to all you lunatics out there who love our St. Louis sports, and until next time.